I think.
My whole weekend at the
Right.
beach, and I'm like, where to go?
I wasn't.
Yeah, I think I left some brain cells there.
So I'd like to welcome everyone to the Historic Preservation Board meeting of the City of Fort Lauderdale. I'm calling the meeting to order at 5:01 PM. Clerk, please take the roll.
Mr. Keith,
Mr. Keith.
Yep.
that's you.
I'm here.
Okay, he's here.
Present.
Mr. Jones,
Here.
Ms. Mossy, here. Mr. Rosa,
Here.
Mr. Chavon,
Here.
Mr. Taylor,
Here.
Mr. Walker, here, Mr. Golden,
Here.
and Chair Mark.
Here. And we have a quorum. And since we have two new board members, I just wanted to have you introduce yourselves and say where you're coming from in this world.
Bob Golden. Big believer in Fort Lauderdale. Have been coming to this area since 1970, basically. And the history is an important part of it, preservation is. I'm on Historic Society. I'm also on the board, treasurer of also, I'm sorry, Central Beach Alliance.
Mhm.
And I live on the beach, not on the beach itself, but a condo overlooking the beach, and I'm glad to be part of it.
Great, welcome. And John?
Jonathan Keith, I have been here in Fort Lauderdale for 25 years and in different areas, mainly on the east side. From Imperial Point down into like where I currently live over in Sunrise Intercoastal. And I currently serve on the board there in that community, as far as other things like Henderson Behavioral Health. I've been on that board for several years. And I think that, regarding the historical board, I think it's an honor, to serve along with all of you as professionals and neighbors here in our community. I'm a huge advocate for, maintaining composure for what our city needs to have for the historic guidelines. And I want to be a major part of whatever I can do to help.
Great, welcome. With that, we're now going to state the Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone would stand, the flag is in the corner up here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. As everyone on the board had the opportunity to review the minutes from last week's meeting, and if so, does anyone have any changes? If there's any changes, I'll entertain a motion. If there's no changes, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Oh, I'm
I move
sorry,
to
we need a
approve the
motion.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Second, okay. Okay, thank you. And motion carries. Okay, so all persons who wish to speak to the board today must be sworn in. Please raise your right hand and stand to be sworn in by the Assistant City Attorney. Sean?
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Great. Each member of the public who wishes to speak on any item will have a length of time not to exceed 3 minutes per item. Representatives of association will have 5 minutes. Okay, we'll begin with agenda item number 1, which is 701 Southwest 12th Avenue. Lena? Oh, no. Oh, number 1.
So this item, the applicant actually is requesting a deferral. And here to make that request.
Please.
Thank you for the year today. I'm working with a engineer who sort of the design drawings. Unfortunately, he couldn't get it completed by. We're still working on it and hope to have it completed next week.
You hope to have it completed.
Hopefully within the next few days.
Okay.
The deadline that he gave me was April 11th.
Okay, and is that sufficient for the next month?
Yeah.
It is. If you're gonna be any later, please stay in touch just in case it has to go through all the things. Okay, thank you. With that, we're gonna, the deferral is requested until the month of May. Would someone like to make a motion?
I will make a motion to move this to next month's agenda.
Second.
And seconded by Tim, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. We'll hope to see you next month.
Thank you.
Okay,
I would like to interrupt for just a second to make an announcement about the iPads that are in front of you. We're kind of testing out the all digital version of our agenda and all of our information packets. So you can swipe up and then everything is downloaded. There should be a couple different icons at the bottom of the page. One is the file folder and one is for the actual Granicus link.
Missing one though.
we're missing one down here. That's okay.
I have my laptop stuff here.
Oh. Thanks, Jane. Okay, great. So
So,
this is,
you know, as we proceed throughout the meeting, if you want to kind of just browse a bit in there as well as with your paper packets, you can kind of get used to utilizing the iPads. So that moving forward, we're not going to have the paper packets delivered in advance. We will just be delivering the digital version of the agenda that has all the links to the documents that you can go through individually, and then at the meeting, we'll have the iPads available.
so there won't be any paper versions of the meeting on.
Correct.
Okay. Great.
Yeah, so, so if you encounter any issues during this meeting, let me know, and if we need another meeting before we transition to fully digital, then we can do that as well. Yeah, there's some issues. Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
so agenda item number 2 is UDP HP 25004 at 1336 Sea Breeze Boulevard. Is the applicant here? Yes,
Yes, I am.
please introduce yourself.
Good afternoon. My name is Larry Grosshart.
And
And my
Please
wife and I
continue.
are the proud stewards of the Dr. Willard Van Orville King House. That's an old photograph right there. Thank you for the opportunity to tell you about our beautiful home. My wife, born Caroline King, moved into the house from Orlando 72 years ago when she was 6 years old. The only home she's ever known. After Marine Corps, we met and were married 54 years ago. When your family moved in, 55 years old, born in 1888, same year as my grandfather. He was infirm from and the diseases they carried. So the Army could inoculate the Army soldiers and the Marines landing on the island. My wife Caroline was named for the Caroline Islands, where Dr. King served, also where he caught malaria. Dr. King understandably was not a do-it-yourselfer, and the house was in need of repair and refurbishment when I moved in. I became the de facto caretaker. I did everything I could to improve the property while honoring the design and the designer. I made cosmetic improvements, but there was little I could do to improve the curb appeal because of the roof material. In the early 50s, the state of the art was tar and gravel. In the early 2000s, I read that the Historical Society was looking for old houses to be preserved. I made a call and told the operator a little bit about the property. Oh, she said, is it a Bill Bigney design? She sounded excited. I pleaded ignorance. While awaiting an inspection, I pulled out the blueprints. Right here. And lo and behold, there was famed architect Bill Bigney's name on the plans. This began my education in the Mid-Century Modern School of Design. Bill Bigney was also the designer of the Mai Kai restaurant and the Fort Lauderdale Police Station, now the old Fort Lauderdale Police Station. A gifted architect, but a tragic figure in his personal life, as are so many great artists. Bill Bigney had been a student of Walter Gropius at Harvard. Walter Gropius was the founder of the Bauhaus School of Design in Germany in the 1930s. This is his book that he wrote. His architectural philosophy abandoned the old ornamentation for the sake of ornamentation. That was the traditional European building style at the time. In his own words from the book, a breach has been made with the past, which allows us to envisage a new aspect of architecture corresponding to the technical civilization of the age we live in. In another passage, he writes, the inevitable logical product of the technical conditions of our age. In this movement, such terms as form follows function and fitness for purpose equals beauty or common. By the way, Walter Gropius had to flee his home of Germany because the paper hanger with a little mustache did not approve of such modernism. He had to skedaddle. The Historical Society was willing to help us obtain historical designation, and we had to make a decision. I talked to Jim Noggle, the mayor at the time, about the wisdom of moving forward with the process. I did not take his advice, and here we are. We're in the book.
Excuse me, what was the book?
This is a brochure. You can pass that down to the chairman, please. There's a little Post-it tab there so you can see our page.
So registration.
Because of that little brochure, we've had a visitor to the house. A visitor. He didn't want to see inside, he just wanted to see the outside. Bill Bigney and his mentor, Walter Gropius, were prisoners of their age. as are we all. If Bill Bigney had been able to specify a better product for the roof of our house, he would certainly have used it. Instead, he had to use what was then available, tar and gravel. Yes, actual white pea rock. I still have to clean it out of the soffits when I refurbish them. One wonders if Bigney winced when choosing this material. In 2005, Hurricane Wilma treated us to a hole in the roof cover caused by a flying errant shutter from somebody else's property, probably a tall condo. Finding a roofer at that time was a nightmare. Almost impossible. And our insurance agent at the time, who shall remain nameless, was of no use in guiding us in the process of signing a contract. In the end, I had no choice but to sign with a gypsy. Against the advice of every expert in the public arena. I also had to put up funds just to secure our place in line. Again, counter to all official advice. I sweated bullets for months. But one day the gypsy returned with trucks, crew, and materials. And we got a new roof. A huge relief, as you can imagine. Obviously, at that time, I could not pursue options other than the modern equivalent of tar and gravel, the built-up roof. A very slight improvement over the older technology. Itty-bitty chips of gray stone instead of white pea gravel. Now, 20 years later, the insurance company insists that I replace the roof. I'm hoping to improve the home while maintaining its mid-century modern character. I'm sure that Bill Bigney and Walter Gropius would approve of the modern standing seam metal roof in pleasant earth tone color. The rectilinear design of the new product is in complete harmony with the original design motif. No frills, no curvilinear barrel tile. The built-up roof material cannot be made attractive. It can be painted white, but that cosmetic treatment is very temporary. I'm trying to improve the curbside appeal of our historic home. We have a very lush garden of trees and shrubs. Much change from that photograph. So the most visible aspect from the street is the large, low sloping roof. Very unattractive, you can see it there. Apparently, I recently painted the roof white when that photo was taken. After our previous roof replacement, our neighbor across the street complained to code enforcement about our new roof. In this complaint, he said, he didn't put on the tile. It's nothing but tar paper. Code enforcement took no action, of course. I had the roof I had to have. A new metal roof would do a much better job of protecting and preserving the structure too. It is fire resistant, whereas a built-up roof consists entirely of fuel for a fire. It's petroleum. Our house is our main legacy for our daughter, our only child. Protecting it is of paramount importance. So here we are. We can preserve the innocent accident of the past, or we can preserve the design and intent of the architect and increase the life and glory of our beautiful home. A simple question. What would Walter Gropius want us to do? What would Bill Bigney want us to do?
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any questions? Pardon? On the staff report,
Would you like to do disclosures before we do the staff report?
pardon?
Disclosures?
Yes, we would.
Okay.
Any disclosures? None? Robert, Bob? No. No.
None.
I'm driven by.
You've driven by. Okay.
Everybody is driven by my, almost everybody in the country, maybe in the world.
I spoke to the roofer and that they were doing a job on my own property. And only question I had was, what was it impossible to put back the original? And is that why the metal was chosen, or was it a question of choice? That's the only communication I had. And I've been by the house 1,000 times.
And my roofer is here today.
Okay,
Any other questions for me?
I'm sure there will be as we go
Okay,
around,
we'll
so just stay
I'll be,
close, okay. With that, are there any comments or questions?
Get the staff report.
Oh, do we have the staff report?
Yes. Any disclosures from Jonathan and Rachel?
Yeah.
No.
Another on my end.
We'll do that staff.
Yes, so case number UDP HP 25004. The applicant already told you the story about the background of this house. It's a unique landmark. It's included into the National Register of Historic Places. The applicant already provided information about the background, and it honestly, it was a pleasure to make research about this house. It's a unique building, and the architect is a famous local architect, William Francis Bigney. The applicant requests replacement of the existing roof, built-up roof with two types of roof. Facing the right-of-way, the existing roof will be, the existing roof covering the carport, entrance, and living room will be replaced with standing seam metal roofing. And the rear of the home with a low sloped and flat built-up roof over floor of the room will be replaced in kind with the same material. We believe that although the roof has a low slope and is not highly visible, the proposed replacement on the west elevation would impact the historic facade and architectural features. Opting for new built-up roofing to match the existing would better preserve the original aesthetic and character of the structure. So here are the criteria for certificate of appropriateness. Under ULDR section 47-2411C.3.3I, the effect of the proposed work on the landmark of the property upon which such work is to be done. Staff response is the proposed roof replacement on the west elevation will alter the historic facade and architectural elements. According to the original permit record card, the roof was listed as a built-up roof, and proposed standing seam metal roof does not have a historical basis and will alter the architectural style. A built-up roof replacement would be more appropriate to mention the existing design and preserving the home's mid-century modern integrity. And we think that application doesn't meet this criteria. Certificate of appropriateness for major alteration pursuant to ULDR section 47-2411D3C. Deteriorated architectural features shall be repaired rather than replaced. So we believe that in this case, since the roof requires roof replacement, it will be better to replace with the mentioned material. And in the original architectural plan, the roof covering material is listed as a built-up roof. And more appropriate replacement of roof vent material would be a built-up roof to match the existing application document. And, staff finds that the application for CRA for major alterations under case number DHP 25004 located at 1336 Seabreeze Boulevard does not meet the criteria as outlined in sections 47-24, 11D3CI, and 47-24, 11D3CII.
Thank you. And I just wanted to take a moment to thank Mr. Grosshart, I'm sorry, for being the steward of this architect's work. He is one of the more famous architects in the history of Fort Lauderdale.
It's our honor and our privilege.
Thank you. And also, I just wanted to mention, and I'm sure it'll go around here too, that in the past, although we have had similar types of roofing, such as the metal roofing proposed, it has been approved over the objections of staff. But that's up to the board today.
And my roofer is here to give you some more historical information about the standing seam roof.
Okay, and what may I ask, what color are you proposing?
It's an earth tone like the walls of, call it, sand.
Oh. Yes, thank you.
There's a sample in the packet.
Oh,
Pre-weather Galvalume.
well, it's aluminum, not.
Is that aluminum? Yeah, okay,
And the color is called pre-loaded.
yes, okay. With that, I'd like to go around the table and see if anyone has any questions or comments. Richard, can we start with you?
I don't have any comments right now.
No comments? Alan?
I'd like to thank you for coming in. I appreciate it. I walk by your house about every day. So I appreciate all the efforts. Tricia, did you guys have engagement over the last month? And how did we get to this point?
The roofing company submitted a permit application to change out the roofing material, and staff has been able to approve a change in roofing material administratively. So we told them, you know, you have to go to the Historic Preservation Board, and we worked with them to expedite an application probably within the last couple of weeks. Yeah. Just to make sure they could get on the side of that.
Thank you.
Are you
Yeah.
going to stop for a garden tour one of these days?
I might stop for a swim. I didn't know that was there.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah, we have a beautiful swimming pool in back too.
Nice.
as it shows in one of your pictures here.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Arthur, help me just in your initial remark, you said the board has taken similar.
In the
action.
past, we've taken similar positions contrary to the position of staff. Where technically, and Patricia, tell me if I'm correct, technically, this is not part of an allowable roofing material in this district.
So this is a standalone historic landmark, and it's also listed on the National Register of Historic Places. So it doesn't have the same regulations as Sailboat Bend, where it lists out different roofing materials. But within the design guidelines, as well as the Secretary of the Interior Standards for Rehabilitation, you know, matching with the original roofing material is something that is highly encouraged and promoted to retain the original architectural design and features of the structure.
And I think what I read in the materials is we have to have a finding of fact to take a different approach. Is that correct?
Yeah,
I think it would be helpful to hear from the roofing company about,
actually, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear
I
you.
think it would be helpful to hear from the
The roofer,
roofing company to talk about why he chose not to go with the existing thing and why he decided
Good
to
question.
go with the metal roof as an alternative.
I made 9 copies of the history of metal roofing, can I pass that out?
Of course.
Hi, thank you. My name is Tim Nass. I'm the owner of Nass Roofing. Mr. Grossart came to us and talked about doing a metal roof. When my wife runs a permit study, she did exactly what you said. And their permit got rejected, and so I got involved here. I think one of the things we gotta understand is he's doing a great job trying to preserve his property. I think we might be under the wrong impression. This is the history of metal roofing. One of the first things you'll see is, about early metal roofing. One of the first metal roofs was put on in Philadelphia was the Christ Church. And I think it was 1695, and that was the only building to live through the Great Philadelphia Fire in 1721. So metal roofing actually is like safer alternative to shingle and even tile a lot. But also, when we put a metal roof on, we have to provide a fire retardant layer. So that the firemen have to be on top of it, it doesn't go down as fast. With that being said, we don't want to change the historical significance of this house whatsoever. Metal roofing, if you look at page 4, actually was in the 1950s. So this house, I believe it was built in 51 or 52. 51. So standing seam was available. Why he didn't use it down here, I don't know, maybe it was availability, but we're not talking about, this would have been one of the products that he could have used back in 1951, was standing seam metal roof. The other thing for it is, it's such a low pitch that you're really not going to see a whole lot of the roof. You'll see a little bit, from the eave or the edge there. I think the biggest thing is that it's a safer roof, it's a longer lasting roof. We just got approved new roofs in Cooper City. They never allowed to do metal roofs in Cooper City, and I just went to the board out there and I installed the first standing seam metal roof out in Cooper City, mainly because not historical, but because of insurance. The insurance recognized it lasts 50 years. And, it's just a stronger roof than the event of hurricane. I showed the pictures of metal roofs being the only thing that survived up in the panhandle and years hurricanes and so forth. The other thing too is we talked about the original material on this roof was pea gravel, tar and gravel roof. Can't even put tar and gravel roof on there anymore. So pea rock. So the reality is you're not going back with the original stuff that was put on this house. If you went with standing seam, that would be an original roof. In the sense that they did allow standing seam back in those days. So, I think, as far as I think if you preserve, if you allow Mr. Grossart to go through with this, I think you would still be retaining architectural value for that era. And you would be allowing them to have a safer roof, one that would decrease on his insurance rates, and it's just flat out safer in the event of a fire, in the event of, a hurricane coming through. The brochures I had, my wife might have a couple shows, the only houses in Mexico Beach up in the Panhandle surviving was standing seam metal roofs. Everything else around it was destroyed. It is the strongest roof we put on current. We actually put a built-up roof underneath it, then we put the standing seam on top. So I know Mr. Grossart's facing some insurance issues, and we're trying to get his permit, get his job underway before May. So that's a big thing.
So in your professional opinion, the metal roof is a superior option as well as does have historical relevance to the time period from this in summary.
Definitely, and it was allowed then. And don't forget, like I said, we're actually putting on a built-up roof before we can put on the metal component of it. We have to have underlayment, and the underlayment is built up roof. So we're actually putting it on top of it.
I imagine the underlayment also serves a purpose. If you have a metal roof, it rains, it can be quite noisy. So does that absorb sound?
Yes, because the underlayment is fairly thick. The other thing too is metal roofs in the past. Sometimes they were built on what's called battens, so there was hollowness underneath. Now we do a direct deck, so the noise that you hear is greatly diminished now. It's not an issue. The other lane was almost like a sponge. So.
Bob, do you have any other questions?
Yeah, couple of statements. First of all, Mr. Gross, I commend you initially for going to the historic commission to get the building or your home designated. It is a double-edged sword in many ways, but it's remarkable. And you've lived in it all these years with a sense of pride. And part of my feeling is, if you're thinking of moving in this direction, or you want to move, I don't think you would want to do anything that would hurt the integrity of your home. So from that,
And the physical integrity?
excuse me, I'm talking about the integrity of its appearance, of the meaning of it, et cetera, et cetera. And I just want to thank you for hearing so much about Fort Lauderdale and your home and the contribution of it.
Okay, I tried to make the case that Walter Gropius was a man of his time and a man of technology. And technology has changed, just as we talked about, can't do tar and gravel anymore. It has to be something else. And this is now the current technology. And as Mr. Nance has pointed out, it is historically appropriate that Bill Bigney could possibly have used that material. Why he didn't, we'll never know.
Thank you. Bob, anything else?
So that's,
And Sonia?
I am inclined to approve the metal roof, because it was a material that was available during that time period. Safer, you have to live in the house. There's the, you have to balance reality. You know, I was just 2 weeks ago in Palm Springs, which is the capital of mid-century modern.
It is.
And it was gorgeous. I was just looking through some of the pictures because I was taking pictures of some of those historic neighborhoods, and they all have different roof types. And it's still, you know, on the world stage, it's a model for.
Did you go on any tours or anything?
No, I missed the
The bus tours?
tour,
Okay,
2 weeks before. But, you know, they're using a variety of
they are.
types there. So I think we need to, like I said, balance reality with what we're trying to accomplish.
Great.
Can I go back, Tricia, to a finding of fact? Do we have latitude to make this decision? I'm reminded of Shari asking over and over again, what is your fund? So I hear that and I agree with you. I just don't think that's a finding of fact. So in the interest of time, do we have latitude?
Well, I think didn't we just, we have testimony that says that this is a superior product. We have testimony from the roofer. We have testimony that you couldn't even really, he wouldn't recommend a tar and peat rock roof. So we have got some testimony in that would help support that, right, Sean?
Yeah, I'm not aware of Shari's comments about finding of fact, but there is evidence presented today from the board that I've heard, I think everybody else has heard here.
Yes.
We just have, if somebody makes a motion, we just have to cite that and not the staff report,
Right.
because we're going against the staff
I
report.
thought maybe the National Register had a different angle on this than the local.
Once something is on the national register, the more stringent. Well, if it's locally designated, your more stringent rules are at the local level. For a national register property, it may disqualify itself from operations if it were reviewed later. But they don't review like regular maintenance to properties that are.
So we might have like a different fact in circumstances for somebody selling a pin that requires to have different.
There are other, so there's additional regulations for sale of Ben because of the historic district, but otherwise there's the same regulations for any other property that's designated as a historic landmark within the city where, you know, doing an alteration that changes the appearance is not something that is a goal of the ordinance. It is to maintain the original appearance.
Tricia, I remember at some point, with some project, I don't remember which one exactly. But we did talk about the possibility of having the city change the choices available so that a standing seam metal roof would be one of the choices.
I don't think that's
available.
applicable here
Yeah.
because there's not, it's not applicable here because there's not like a set of materials that apply to the National Register. I think that's what that we were just talking about.
Right,
That's right,
Yeah.
still within the historic district and the other historic district, right?
Right, well, so this is a designated local landmark, historic landmark, it's also on the national. Any locally designated historic landmark has to abide by 47-24-11 of the ULDR. Which lists down criteria in which you evaluate any modifications or changes to the property which are based on the national or the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation. And that talks about, you know, when you're considering any modifications or changes to a historically designated property and utilizing materials that would, you know, if you do need to utilize the materials, that they are reflective on the original design of the structure. So that is what the staff report alludes to and talks about, is maintaining that original appearance. Within Sailboat Bend, that's it's a little bit different where you do have those additional material and design guidelines that list out different material options that can be utilized as part of an application. And it does list standing seam metal roofs there, but that's not applicable to this application.
so what would happen if the roofing material were to be changed? How would that affect the national standard?
I'm not sure how it affects its status as a National Register property. That's something that the applicant would have to understand as the property owner with the National Park Service. And if it would still qualify under that
Okay,
to make that type of alteration. But typically, you don't go through the National Registry to request a certificate of appropriateness the way you do it with a local preservation board. The local standards, the local regulations are the more stringent. And they have to follow these regulations.
Can I ask
Okay.
a question of the roofer while we still have?
of course.
Can you talk to us just briefly about, I understand this house is very close to the beach. Is there a difference in wind resistance between the standing seam metal and the built-up roof? As far as safety, I know you talked about fire retardant, but is there any difference in wind resistance?
Yes, they actually, when we put down a built-up roof, we're putting down a base sheet, and it has a certain nailing pattern to meet the uplift codes. And then we apply the underlayment, let's say to that. Or we do a direct deck now. It's standing, and that's a lot of things, now, you're allowed to do a self-adhered roofing material right to the roof deck without having a whole lot of fasteners like we did in the past. So that's what's going on with shingles, tiles, medium metal roofs. But the difference with a metal roof is we usually use a 16-inch wide panel. And we have a fastener, let's say 8 inches on center, on the bottom and the top of the panel. And then 10 to 12 inches in the middle. It gives us a lot more uplift strength because of that. So now remember I was saying that we're putting a built-up roof under. Now we're attaching a metal roof to it. And those fasteners have created a tremendous uplift. Matter of fact, some inspectors in the city of Fort Lauderdale told me that it's the strongest roof that we put on. We use stainless steel clip, stainless steel screws, and then you have the metal itself. So it is a strong roof.
Thank you.
You had mentioned that a standing seam metal roof would last approximately 50 years,
Yes, it's with the insurance. That's the.
right?
Yeah,
How long would the other alternative be?
approximately 20,
Okay,
15 to 20, it just depends, sun exposures, stuff like that.
I wanna ask you about corrosion prevention on that roof. What's the scenario there with when you're bringing in the seams? Cause I've seen these roofs in the past, they tend to have, especially when they're close to the shoreline, you get a lot of salt. And it creates this awkward corrosion and starts to eat away, especially where you're nailing and all that. How will that play out if we did end up doing that route?
Great question. 30 years ago, 25 years ago, most of the metal roofs put on were, well, going back to the 17th century so far, there was lead and copper, which not corrosive, nothing would ever happen to it, but just very costly. So now, 25, 30 years ago, they came up with galvanized. Even in the 50s was galvanized material. And galvanized, I've seen galvanized last 25 years down the beach and it starts to rust. And same thing, same. So they came up with aluminum and galvanum. Galvanum's a combination of galvanized and aluminum. Probably good enough for the beach, but in this particular case, we're going aluminum. It will never, there's no rust. It's all aluminum. So we're using aluminum stainless steel. Galvanum roofs, if you do a galvanum staining, you could have the possibility where there's a cut panel, you could get some corrosion, but even that is minimal compared to the whole piece of galvanized, because you do have an aluminum component built into it. But an aluminum roof like he has, it'll be here a lot longer than the rest of us.
Okay. No questions? Tim?
As I said, I spoke to the roofer. And by the way, I've done business with Nass Roofing forever. They've done the roof at world famous Barrett 3 times. They've done my house 2 times. And they're really solid, and as you could tell, they know what they're talking about. So careful what you wish for is my first comment. I think that the applicant, when they got into this, and still have a great love and passion for historic preservation. But I think from the day that they put their application into current, so many things have changed economically, and what it takes to preserve history can become very challenging, expensive, complicated. So many tentacles on putting a roof on our house now. I put a roof on my house almost primarily to get my homeowner's insurance down, because it would made more sense for me to put a roof on, incur that big cost, and lower my homeowner's insurance. So a purist attitude would say that you designated your home to be historic, so ergo, be careful what you wish for. This is what you signed up for. I think in practicality and being realistic, and also the major factor being that tin or metal roof style, maybe not that particular style, but that material was available when that house was built, and very easily could have been built that way. I know this goes against what the staff is recommending, and I respect, salute, and I don't disrespect what they're saying, but in this case, I definitely have a tendency, I would vote in favor of this, just based on the fact that the home that is going to last another 50 years. The material was available when it was built. The homeowner is the original applicant to this preservation idea. And I think that deserves some courtesy and some some leverage, because this is their intent. They didn't have a crystal ball to say, hey, 25 years later, we're going to be looking at putting 2 or 3 roofs on instead of 1. And the fire issue and blah, blah, blah. So as far as I'm concerned, it's the best that we could do underneath the circumstances, and it gives the homeowner some consideration for the commitment to historic preservation. Amen.
Could I adjust one caveat if we do approve it? That the color of the roof matches as close as possible to the original color of the roof to keep the integrity.
Well, the
I would
original
suggest
color
that.
of the roof would have just been white.
Whatever color it is, I would suggest.
I like the black.
Yeah, I'm not gonna put an orange roof on like
No,
a
no, I
Howard
understand,
Johnson's roof.
but I think it should be limited
Yeah.
to the color you choose.
There's
And
the
that-
color
color it
selected
says.
in the packet.
There's your color right
Here we
there.
go.
Which one? I'm sorry, I missed that then.
Pale gray,
Very, very
the
Very,
premium
very,
pale gray.
Bottom.
weathered. weathered and
It's very
appropriate.
similar to the color of the rock. Matter of fact, the built-up roofing now is a granule, and it's an off-white granule, almost a gray. Almost kinda like
I missed
Eric's
it.
hair and
Sorry.
Mark's hair. Now, some people paint them white, you know, as time goes on, silicone's a big thing, and they paint everything white.
It's like
But the
this.
original color of the built-up roofing is almost dead. Same color as
Ashley?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution for a certificate of appropriateness for major alterations under case number UVP HB 25004 located at 1336 Seabreeze Boulevard. Based on the expert testimony and discussion that we heard today. And is subject to the following condition, that the application is subject to the approval by building, zoning, and all ULDR requirements.
Second.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all.
Thank you.
And Ashley, I wanted to tell you, you did this very well in terms of the,
Well, I remember that whole discussion we had about the one.
Exactly.
We didn't have the facts.
Yeah, that was a tough one.
I
Yeah.
want to tell you a little story about 2005. Of course, they tell us, you gotta evacuate, you gotta evacuate. Well, we didn't, we've never evacuated. We were in the home. And we heard bang, 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 coming from the roof. Nothing we could do in the storm. And after the storm passed, I got on a ladder, went up there. Somebody else's shutter had torn off their building and it had a hook on it like this. That hook had grabbed the fascia board. And the rest of the shutter did that. And it just wore a hole in the built-up roofing. And then the water started coming in. That was our living room with all our artwork and our finest furniture. Since we were there, we could move everything away. But talk about durability. If a metal roof had been on there, it wouldn't have worn a hole in it. Thank you very much for your time and
Thank
attention.
you all.
I just wanted to
Thank
say
you.
too, I didn't realize until now, since we've been roofing, like, we did the 100-year-old schoolhouse for the city of Fort Lauderdale. We did the Shippey House. What was the other one?
Here's a little there.
Oh, it
It
was-
was Richardson House.
Yeah, so we've done a few. this-
Okay. Great. Thank you
Thank you all.
thank you all. And good luck to you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Right under my privilege.
Item number 3. Which is, hold on a second here. 220 Southwest Second Avenue, Second City Entertainment Company. Would someone like to read the stamp report? First of all, are there any disclosures?
No,
No.
No,
No. Okay, okay. And ma'am, you are the owner?
No, I, Melissa, Weatherwack, I work for the sign company that.
Okay.
Put together the package that you have.
So I see in the report that the signage meets all applicable codes.
Other than.
Okay, so does anyone have any questions about this?
May I hear the staff report?
Of course. Sorry, I always go out of order.
This item is for installation of 2 non-illuminated wall signs. The case number is UBB HB 25003. The property, the survey, it's character design and feature is the semi-circular corner windows. The property was identified as was designed in the Art Deco style, and the applicant requests the installation of two non-illuminated signs on the property, on two sides. So one sign, wall sign will be installed on north elevation. Oh, yeah, you can see it on this screen. So there'll be reverse channel letters and wave line placed on the wall. The total area of the proposed sign is 34.12 square feet. And another sign, there.
On the corner.
Yeah, it will be on this standard northwest corner, with also reverse channel letters and wave line placed on the wall. The total area of the proposed sign is 9.94 square feet. The application. So first criteria was the relationship between such work and other structures on the landmark site. On or other property in the historic district and within the city of Fort Lauderdale's historic preservation design guidelines. Guidance is provided for reviewing the appropriateness of the size of a commercial sign, including the following. A signage should be compatible to scale of the buildings, adjacent buildings, the streetscape and adjacent signage. The size of the wall sign on the north and northwest elevations is comparable to the neighboring properties and is appropriate to the scale of the building. And thus application meets the criteria. And next was the distinguishing original qualities of character of the building, structure or site and environment shall not be destroyed. And we think that the visual impact of the proposed new sign fits within the character of the historic district, and application meets this criterion as well. And finally, the location type, the pursuant to ULDR section 47-16.21.b. Approving or denying applications for certificates of appropriateness for alterations in the historic preservation district, commercial district. The following general criteria will be applied. The location, type, size, material, text, visual impact, shape, character, height, and orientation of all signs, in addition to the number of total area of signs on a given structure or at a given location, shall be approved by the board. No more than 2 signs shall be permitted at each place of business or premises. And in this case, they are proposing 2 signs. So proposed scope of work is limited to installation of 2 wall signs. Application meets the criterion. And finally, except of temporary signs allowed under section 25-34, temporary signs may be lighted, but only by external incandescent light bulbs illuminating the text of the sign from the exterior. And in this case, the proposal includes the installation of non-illuminated signs, which will use external sign lighting to illuminate the text. Application means the criteria.
When you say external lighting,
Like,
Little,
could you go
standard
back
little
to
lamp
the-
bar.
Oh,
going out.
above, on-
Yeah, there you go.
Only on this
See?
north
Over
elevation.
Fat Tuesday.
right, okay.
Yeah.
And just one question for the applicant. I see that these are renderings, I guess they're not photographs.
Well, it's actually, it's a photograph that we added the sign.
Okay. Because I was going to ask why both signs aren't on the same one, but now I understand. Okay,
So staff finds that application for certificate of appropriateness for major alterations under case number UPP HP 25003, located at 220 Southwest 2nd Street, meets the criteria as outlined in section 47-24.11.d. Of the ULDR and meets the criteria as outlined in section 47-2411B3CII of the ULDR and meets the criteria as outlined in section 47-17.
Right. Any comments or questions or motions?
It seemed like when I was looking at it, it looked like the two signs were a little close together. From there on the corner and there on the side. And a thought would have been maybe to go on the other side of the building if, with a full sign on the other side, instead of the logo on the front. Up, where it's, where it aligns with the other sign.
That's really up to the,
It's all dependent on the, like. First, where the customer wants it, two, who's gonna see it almost like traffic lights? And three, we have to go within how much frontage we have on each side of the building.
I mean, it seems like you have enough footage on the other side as well. But to have it, have one sign right there and at that window here on the corner piece here. And then another sign, it seemed like a lot.
Well, we previously, actually, the customer wanted more signage. We took two signs off because we wanted to go by code and we're allowed maximum of two signs.
two signs. Okay.
I think if you were to go down that other street, there's no traffic, it goes to a roundabout.
Yeah, they'll just go.
Yeah.
And I noticed that too. It just seemed like it was kind of weird that they were up against it.
Yeah, but whenever you're, so the one that you're looking at right now, if you're driving from this direction, you're not gonna see it until you're past it. That's why they
Yeah.
put it on the corner, because
Right.
the way the corner angles, you'll see it more clearly.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
That's why it's. that's
I
why it's
100% agree, as much sign as possible and an opportunity to get that, but it just seemed like it was a lot. Those two signs up against each other.
I think they're going for the visibility.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, obviously. What's the footage between the two?
It's less than 40 square feet total if you add them both up, so it's 34.12. And I think 9. And 9, so you got a little bit over 40, so if you say, if I just rounded it up to 10, you've got like 44 square feet total.
Oh.
That's
Okay.
signage.
What's the footage between the two though? The one.
You mean the distance
Yeah,
between the two?
the distance between.
I don't have that exact measurement of,
Okay,
the space between the two.
yeah,
I mean, it's pretty close to evenly spaced, so the first sign is. 15 foot 2 inches in length, and the frontage of the store is 22 feet, so if I take 15, so I got 7 feet on this total, so that's 3.5 feet on either side. So you would say 3.5 feet, and then. About 6 feet, 6.5 feet between the two. If it was a straight line.
Okay. With that, are there any other comments, motions, questions? Would somebody like
were you
to?
getting
Sorry,
some
did I
light,
math out loud?
were you getting some lighting up top? I'm assuming it's not gonna be illuminated then.
I'm sorry.
It's gonna be illuminated or it's not? gonna be-
Just this one right here, there's 2 goosenecks
Okay.
that will be there, but the actual signs will not be illuminated.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution for certificate of appropriateness for major alterations under ACE. Under case number UDP HB 25003 located at 220 Southwest Second Street based on the findings of fact. And as outlined in the staff memorandum, and is subject to the. Following conditions that the application is subject to the approval by building and zoning and all ULDR requirements. Second.
All in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Good luck.
Thank you guys, have a good evening.
Thank you. The mystery light switch.
Might be here.
This is television, I guess.
Well, Tricia, I think that was the end of the meeting, wasn't it?
Well, just a request from staff for deferral of the TDR
Right.
discussion item.
And you're deferring it because,
Well, we have been assigned new legal counsel and we're working through some changes in terms of, treating it even better for them. More streamlined version, so just taking a little bit of time to. work
Okay.
through all of this.
great,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we just figure out.
We will shoot for May. We are aiming for May.
Yeah, I mean, to give a little bit more detail on it, with our quirky zoning code, with the units being assigned for the activity center, it creates some challenges with the TBR.
Right.
Ordinance and how we have to match it up. And a lot of those issues, we're looking at it harder to make sure that everything is matched up to our zoning code. We have a very, I guess, unique zoning code is the way to put it.
Right.
With our activity centers.
And in the past, before you joined us, there were an attorney and one of the only people, I believe, who's taken this to fruition. And they had some very good suggestions, which I'm glad to see. I think some of them are included in here.
Yes, we've addressed some of their requests
Their
and
concerns.
comments, yeah.
Okay,
We've continued to have a conversation with them
you have,
about what we're working on.
good,
Yes, we're trying to make it more streamlined.
Great.
More people have a better expectation up front of what kind of TDRs they can get before the designated process. I guess to figure out a way, but we have to make it work within our zoning code as well.
understood.
It's
Now, if we can do that with roofing, we'd be really doing well. So with that, this is probably one of the shortest meetings I think I've attended.
Nothing wrong with
Yeah.
that.
No, I'm not complaining.
Unless you want me to tell you the raccoon story that got in my roof in two
Be
thousand.
quiet.
Just
Okay.
another point. If you pay attention to the planning and zoning board agenda, you will see an item related to TDRs on the agenda for April 16th. And it is just a technical correction within other sections of the ULDR. Kind of like in the same spirit of, we're trying to connect all of the parts between the zoning code and the TDR ordinance. So it's the minor changes that we're taking through the process as quickly as possible, but we'll still be back with the primary ordinance to HPV to
Okay,
talk about those changes.
great.
And then just to note, this is Ashley's last meeting with us,
Oh,
so thank you for your service.
thank you for everything. Just when you master
I
the
know.
art of making a motion.
She's going out with that.
It's been an honor and I appreciate each of you and I've learned from all of you over the last couple of years and Arthur, I appreciate your leadership and
Thank you.
always lead us with well thought out points and I really appreciate it.
Right.
I'm gonna miss everybody.
All right.
We will miss you too. Great.
Move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn. Is there a second? Motion